Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to episode 84 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I am your host, co-founder of the Scarlet Faithful, Aaron Breitman. Thanks so much for those of you that have listened and watched this week. It's been a pretty eventful week with Rutgers men's basketball. All the news in terms of early entrants withdrawing from the NBA draft. So I wanted to take this episode and really make it about appreciation for where Rutgers athletics is currently, where they need to go as a whole, but also taking a minute to just stop and look around the landscape of college athletics right now and realize that Rutgers is in a pretty good position. Things could certainly be better, but overall, there's a lot of instability right now in college athletics. NIL, we know, has caused a lot in terms of the off seasons, in terms of roster instability now. But I'm talking even bigger than that. I'm talking about conference realignment now becoming another round of changes, and the landscape. It's pretty tumultuous right now. You have ACC schools meeting and determining if they can financially, what terms they can get out of the conference. You have UConn toying with the Big 12 or having conversations with the Big 12. There's a lot of it's a pretty polarizing subject within their fan base. There's the Pac-12. Is that going to be around in 2-3 years from now? It's hard to know at this moment. So I think appreciating that Rutgers is in the Big Ten, and yes, things could be better, right? As a whole, athletics this past year, last year was the best year for Rutgers athletics in a long time. Unfortunately, they weren't able to repeat with that this past year. Most teams ended up faring worse results-wise. Didn't have nearly as many teams in the NCAA tournament. In terms of the Directors' Cup, Rutgers is going to finish worse than they did last year. We still have two athletes, Chloe Tenberg and Cecilia Robinson, competing at the NCAA Outdoor Championships next week, and then the athletics year will be fully over. Rutgers rowing did get some points in the Directors' Cup this past weekend with a 15th place finish at Nationals. Extremely consistent program now. So results-wise, a lot of teams that are good programs had disappointing ends to their season. But what I'm encouraged by in this aspect of appreciation is that there is stability still. Let's look at football. Greg Schiano going into his fourth year. I get it. There's some people that are fed up. There's some people that are not very hopeful for next season. There's some obvious, concerns on the field in terms of offensive line, in terms of the offense in general. How much depth is there overall? But just, I look at this weekend and they have as big of a list and as high end of a list of recruits taking official visits this weekend than I think they've had in a long time. And it's not just New Jersey recruits. And I'm that makes me most encouraged because they're getting kids from all over the country to visit. You have D.D. Holmes is this 4-star edge from Washington, D.C. He's a top 250, 275 recruit, which is really, he would be a huge impact. You have Josiah Brown, who's former teammates with Dylan Braithwaite, the wide receiver for Rutgers, freshman. He's being recruited by everybody. I just wanted to look that up. He's literally being recruited by everybody: Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, Miami, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. And he's on campus this weekend taking an official visit. He's been at Rutgers multiple times. They have a legitimate chance to get him. He's the number one recruit in New York State. D.D. Holmes, who I mentioned, he's got a final six of Florida, Florida State, Maryland, Michigan, South Carolina, and Rutgers. Rutgers is his first visit. That's going to be, you almost don't want the first visit, but at the same time, to get him on campus is really big. They have Corey Duff Jr., who's going to be back. He's a former teammate of Ian Strong, another freshman. and they have, seven recruits from Florida, 5 from North Carolina. So I'm just thrilled to see the recruiting focus expand. I think for too long, football has just kind of over focused in a way on New Jersey. I think you're going to get the New Jersey kids that want to be there, and otherwise, you really do have to extend your reach. And I think Shiano is learning. I think that the staff is learning. They have Isaiah Crumpler, real high potential, high end 3-star. He's got family history. Algie Crumpler, most notable, his brother started in the NFL, his father, his other brother as well. But he could be a really, really big get for them on receiver. He's there recruiting. He's on his official visit, but he's committed. AJ Serace, who, by the way, did really well last week in terms of competing for the opening Elite 11, didn't get picked, but really positive reviews from everyone that was there and saw him. I think he's going to end up being a steal for them at quarterback. And then you have Monty Keener, another 3-star tight end. But you have these 3 guys that are there to help recruit everybody else. And they have some high-end 4-star recruits on campus. And this is just the first weekend. But to have that many from outside of New Jersey. And then next week's going to be a big recruiting week too. I think that, the recruiting class are in the top 30 right now nationally. They need to add some 4-star guys, but they're targeting 4-star guys, and they have a legitimate chance with some 4-star guys. So I think recruiting, honestly, is doing better than I expected after last year. And I think that fans have a right to be concerned about, can the program get over the hump this year? 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins. When is Rutgers going to start to ascend under Shiano 2.0? We'll see. But I think this weekend, honestly, should breed hope that he's still resonating on the recruiting trail and the program is still building. And I'm hopeful. Basketball, I tweeted this morning. They are included right now in John Rothstein and Andy Katz, pretty much aside from Jeff Goodman and anyone with Field of 68. I mean, they're the 2 biggest, I think, national writers at this point, aside from your, traditional ESPN, all that, outlets. And they both have Rutgers in their preseason rankings now that Cliff's back. They both. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks this morning. It's like, I listen, the end of last season was disappointing. We've talked about it at length. But to have that and then have the Cam Spencer departure not that long ago, and to still have national media, including Rutgers, in their preseason rankings, that for me is a step back moment of wow. The program really, we have to appreciate where it's come under Steve Peichel. We want it to go farther. Of course, he wants to have it go farther. But yes, preseason rankings at the end of the day, they don't mean anything. But from a perception standpoint, perception matters. And to have Rutgers, and you don't think recruits are reading that stuff? I mean, to see Rutgers in those preseason rankings, to have other fan bases reading that and seeing Rutgers there, whether they want to admit it or not, it's a really positive thing. They have Bryce Dortch, 4-star recruit, class of 24, visiting this weekend. It seems, they have a very strong relationship with him. They've recruited him they offered him over 2 years ago. And honestly, you really didn't hear about him much from a recruiting standpoint with Rutgers. We know about Ace Bailey. We know about Lathan Somerville. We know about Dylan Harper, fingers crossed. But, Delquan Warren decommits, and then 2 days later, Dortch commits to an official visit this weekend. So that just shows the preparation. It shows the thoroughness and that this program is built to last. So keep your eyes peeled to see how this weekend goes for Dortch. That would be, he's a versatile wing. He can really defend. He can create his own shot. He plays in the New England Prep League, which is a really good league, and Rutgers is doing really well recruiting there. So I think he's an exciting kid. I think to pair him with or to add him to the group that is Somerville, Bailey, and knock on wood, Harper, would boost him. He's right outside the top 100. He's a 4-star guy. It'd be a great addition. So we'll see. We're full on portal watch as well. We're now in June. I mean, I don't think there's any set timeline, but with Rutgers going overseas, by early to mid August, I do think there's some urgency, and you want to get your roster set as soon as possible. The team reports back, in a week plus, and they can begin summer workouts. So it's a priority. You have Cliff back now. Paul hasn't announced what he's going to do. I do think he will return. I think there's a good feeling that he will return. As I talked about yesterday, give him space, give him time. He's earned it. He deserves it. And he'll ultimately do what he thinks is best for him. But you need to add a backup big now. You need to add a shooter. So Rutgers doesn't have to wait. And I think it could happen anytime. Remember, I mean, Jacob Young, it almost felt like he just showed up and committed. Obviously, that's not how it actually went, but that's how it appeared because no one had heard anything. Same thing kind of with Cam Spencer. They've had other visitors in the past where just kind of popped up or you found out after the fact where no one was reporting it, and then all of a sudden it comes out. So I'm on portal watch for sure. Who knows if they have anybody else visiting this weekend, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I think that they're a really stable core group on the roster right now, and to get the national respect, despite some of the hits, and I think the fan base, parts of the fan base have panicked even more than the national media has, and I think that just shows how much respect Pikiell garners and how much the program benefit of the doubt that Rutgers now gets. And if you follow on Twitter, I mean, there's plenty of Big Ten accounts that are tweeting their power rankings now that the early entrants have returned, and we have a better idea of what rosters look like. And everyone's picking Rutgers in the middle of the pack. They're not picking them in the top 5, but they're not picking them in the bottom 4 either. And I'm sure there's some Rutgers fans that probably are like, Rutgers is gonna, they're worried, right? But national perception, conference perception, they're not as worried about Rutgers as some fans are. And that's progress. So, yes, we want to go farther. We want to get back to the NCAA tournament. We want to make a run in the NCAA tournament. We want to finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten. We all want that to happen. But it's days like this that I think we also have to step back and say, hey, you know what? The program's come pretty far too. There's farther to go, but let's appreciate where we are right now. And then, I have to give credit to Scott Goodale. He's really making strides on this offseason, both in the portal and on the recruiting trail. He just landed a really big recruit, Nate Blanchette. This was yesterday. I wrote about it this morning. He's a junior national champion, 2-time New England state champ. He's in the class of 24. That's a big-time recruit. He's a top 60 overall prospect at 170. And then he's landed multiple guys in the transfer portal that are all going to, I think, end up being starters next year. Jacob Butler and Mitch Moore from Oklahoma are going to be probably at the 141, 149 slots. Then you have Yara from the heavyweight from Harvard. He's definitely, I think he's definitely in line for that spot. So even programs that had disappointing ends to their season, they are positively adding to their programs in the offseason. And that's stability, that's leadership, and a big part of that also is being in the Big Ten. And it's a great thing. Now, we all want Rutgers to be more financially secure in terms of, the athletic department has been in the red for a long time. There was something that came out about subsidies, and, Rutgers is the only Big Ten school that was mentioned. I believe it's about $20 million this past year. We know the division at Rutgers and those that are not understanding or really tolerant of athletics being a major part of the university. Although President Holloway has talked about the budget and how much athletics really impacts it, which is not, from percentage wise, he quoted 2%. But anyway, we always want it better, right? We want more money for the athletic department. We want more money for NIL. It's only going to make things better. We want more money for facilities. We always want more, but things are still good. We want more of that share from the Big Ten. I know people answered in the Q&A last week. Some people are, mad about UCLA and USC getting full share right away. The good news is the Big Ten TV deal is coming. I haven't really been able to write about it yet. There is some details that apparently were reported by Pete Thamel that the whole conference, weren't fully aware of, and the total payout might not be as high as they thought, but it's still going to be really high, and it's only going to get higher. And although Rutgers can get more stable financially and can get more competitive on the field and improve across multiple programs, there's a lot of good coaches in the athletic department right now. Pat Hobbs, I know he could be an easy target at times for NIL frustrations. And like I said, you could always do better, right? They did announce the NIL story yesterday. I think that's a great thing, and it's truly the intention of what NIL is supposed to be. But I know that they're working on more, and I think along with appreciation is I know people don't like this word, the P word, but patience also. Rutgers is that they're not a top 3, 4. They're not a blue blood. They're not Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. But Rutgers is almost a decade now in being in the Big Ten, is in a lot better position, is a lot more competitive, is a lot more respected than it was a decade ago. Just think about where we're going to be a decade from now. So that's really what I wanted to focus on today, Friday, summer weekend. It's going to be really hot. It's really hot today. And I just think that we're always striving to be better. I'm going to be critical when I think be critical, but at the same time, I think, especially going into summer now, but the way recruiting is going for multiple programs, we're seeing positive signs. The way that realignment is being talked about and conferences are seemingly very unstable. ACC, Pac-12, UConn just wins the national championship in the Big East, and now they if they go to the Big 12, is that what they need to do to survive for football and basketball? Is it going to kill their Olympic sports? Do they stay in the Big East and then ultimately it hurts them in the long? I mean, it's. I don't think it's an easy answer either way, to be honest with you. But we don't have those problems. Rutgers is not focusing their energy on stability as a university, as a school, as a program when it comes to big time athletics. Things are stable, things are secure. We're focusing on things we want to be focusing on and getting better as an athletic department, as individual programs. And that's a great thing. So thank you for listening and watching once again. Thank you for reading all my content at scarletfaithful.com. I'll have more out this weekend. Commit watch, both with football and basketball, for sure. And have a great weekend and talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening and watching here at The Scarlet Faithful.